My name is Maya Collins, and for the past 5 years I've worked as a waitress at one of the most expensive restaurants in Manhattan. The kind of place where the menus don't have prices, where the lighting is soft enough to hide guilt, and where people spend more on a single dinner than my mother used to make in a month. Most nights, I serve celebrities, CEOs, politicians, and men who believe money excuses cruelty. I smile. I stay professional. I don't ask questions. That rule kept me safe until the night I broke it. 3 months ago, I was working a double shift. My feet burned. My head throbbed, and I was counting minutes until closing when the floor manager leaned close and lowered his voice. Maya, private booth, VIP request. He wants the best server. I checked the tablet and felt my stomach drop. Ethan Blackwood. Even if you don't follow tech news, you know that name. Self-made billionaire, ruthless businessman. He came alone. No assistant. No security hovering nearby. Just him, sitting in the corner booth with his back to the wall, phone face down, staring at nothing. I introduced myself, poured water, took his order. Filet, rare, whiskey neat, minimal conversation. As I reached to place the glass down, his sleeve slid up slightly, and my breath caught. On his left wrist was a tattoo, a black compass rose, cracked through the center by a thin, jagged line. My mother has the exact same tattoo, same design, same size, same wrist. I've seen it my whole life. When she scrubbed floors as a janitor, when she counted medication at the kitchen table, when her hands shook from the disease she never complains about. I asked her about it when I was little. From before you were born, she'd say. Does it mean anything? It means I once believed I'd found my way. She never said more. Standing there in that booth, staring at Ethan Blackwood's wrist, I felt something cold slide down my spine. Coincidences don't feel like that. I should have walked away. Instead, I did the one thing I'd never done with a customer. Sir, I said quietly, this is unprofessional, but my mother has a tattoo exactly like yours. What does it mean? The change in him was instant. He froze. His eyes lifted slowly to my face, sharp and searching, like he was seeing me for the first time. What did you say? He asked. My mother, I repeated, heart pounding. She has that same tattoo. He swallowed. What is your mother's name? I hesitated, then answered, Elena Collins. The glass slipped from his hand. It shattered across the table, whiskey spilling like blood over white linen. How old are you? He asked, voice barely holding together. 26. He did the math. I could see it. You have her eyes, he whispered. Then he stood, threw a stack of cash on the table, and walked out, leaving broken glass, unanswered questions, and the sudden, terrifying feeling that my entire life had just cracked open. And I didn't even know why. The rest of my shift passed in a blur. I smiled at guests, refilled glasses, nodded at complaints, but my hands were shaking the entire time. Ethan Blackwood didn't just leave the restaurant, he fled. Men like him don't lose control in public. They don't drop glasses or stare at waitresses like they've seen a ghost. And they definitely don't ask about mothers. When I finally clocked out near 1:30 a.m., my phone buzzed in my pocket. One unread message from my mother. Mom, Maya, where did you hear that name? My chest tightened. I didn't answer right away. I walked to the subway, sat on a bench, and stared at the dark tunnel while trains roared past. Then I typed, me. He came into the restaurant tonight. He has the same tattoo as you. Same wrist. Same design. Mom, who is Ethan Blackwood? The reply came almost instantly. Mom, come home, please. That scared me more than anything else. My mother, Elena Collins, has never asked for anything. Not when my dad disappeared. Not when bills piled up. Not when the tremors started 3 years ago and she lost her job cleaning offices downtown. Parkinson's doesn't care how strong you are. It takes what it wants, slowly, cruelly. When I got to our apartment in Queens, she was sitting at the kitchen table, hands folded tight, knuckles white. The overhead light made her look smaller somehow. You saw him, she said quietly. Yes. She closed her eyes. I hoped I'd never hear that name again. Mom, I said, sitting across from her. You know him, don't you? She nodded once. I knew him before he was anything, she whispered. Before the money, before the anger, before the world hardened him. My heart pounded. How? Her fingers trembled as she pushed up her sleeve. We got them together, she said. In 1997. He wasn't a billionaire, she continued. He was a broke engineering student sleeping on a friend's couch. I was working 2 jobs. We were young. We were stupid. We thought love was enough. Then why did you leave? I asked. Why didn't he stay? Tears slipped down her cheeks. I didn't leave him, she said. I left for my mother's funeral in Chicago. I was supposed to be gone 2 weeks. She looked up at me, eyes glassy. I found out I was pregnant after I got there. The room tilted. Pregnant with me? I whispered. She nodded. I tried to call him. The number was disconnected. I wrote letters. No response. When I came back to New York, his apartment was empty. No forwarding address. Nothing. My hands clenched into fists. And you never told him? I thought he'd abandoned me, she said. And by the time I realized the truth, you were already born. I couldn't bring a billionaire into your life when I didn't even know if he wanted us. I thought of Ethan's face. The fear. The shock. Mom, I said slowly. He didn't abandon us. She looked up. He's been alone his entire life. And suddenly, I realized something terrifying. Ethan Blackwood didn't just recognize my mother's name. He recognized me. Barely slept that night. Every memory I'd ever filed away under normal suddenly felt suspicious. The missing father. The way my mother flinched whenever I asked questions. The tattoo she never explained. I'd always assumed my dad was some mistake she didn't want to relive. Now I wondered if he was a man who never knew I existed. The next morning, my phone rang at 9:12 a.m. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Maya Collins. A calm male voice said. My name is Daniel Frost. I'm legal counsel for Ethan Blackwood. He asked me to contact you. My stomach dropped. I'm listening. Mr. Blackwood would like to speak with you and your mother, if you're willing, privately. I glanced at my mother, who sat on the couch staring at nothing, hands trembling in her lap. He saw me last night, I said carefully. That wasn't planned. I understand, Daniel replied. Neither was his reaction. To be direct, Mr. Blackwood believes there's a possibility he is your biological father. The word hit like a punch. I need time, I said. Of course, he'll wait, but given your mother's condition, he hoped sooner rather than later. That did it. We agreed to meet that afternoon at a private medical suite in Midtown. Neutral ground. No press. No spectacle. Ethan was already there when we arrived. He stood when he saw us. No suit jacket. No billionaire armor. My mother froze. Then she nodded. Ethan. 25 years collapsed into that single word. They sat across from each other, neither touching, both crying silently. I stayed back watching, feeling like an intruder in my own origin story. I looked for you, he said finally. For years. I thought you disappeared, she replied. I thought you chose something else. I chose nothing, he said bitterly. I built everything trying to fill the space you left. He turned to me then. You're her daughter, he said, but I need to know if you're mine. I crossed my arms trying to hold myself together. If you are, I asked, why didn't you find us? His jaw tightened. Because I believed she left me, he said. And when I had money, power, I used it to punish the world instead of searching harder. That sounded like revenge. A nurse entered quietly. DNA test kits, consent forms, silence. My mother reached for my hand. Whatever the result, she whispered, you are my miracle. The samples were taken. Waiting was torture. 2 days later, Daniel called. The results are in, he said. Mr. Blackwood would like you both present. When we arrived, Ethan held the envelope like it weighed 1,000 pounds. He opened it. Read. Then his shoulders collapsed. Maya, he said, voice breaking. The test confirms a 99.8% probability. He looked at me, eyes filled with something I'd never seen in a man like him. I'm your father. And in that moment, the most feared billionaire in America didn't look powerful at all. He looked terrified of everything he'd already lost and desperate not to lose us too. No one tells you what it feels like to suddenly gain a parent at 26 years old. There's no script for it. No celebration. Just shock layered over grief for a childhood that never happened. I didn't cry when Ethan said the words. I didn't hug him either. I just sat there numb, while my mother sobbed quietly into a tissue. I need air, I finally said and walked out into the hallway. The building was silent, sterile, too clean for the mess inside my head. A billionaire father, a life built on a misunderstanding. 26 years of absence explained by bad timing and wounded pride. None of it brought back birthdays missed or nights my mother cried in the bathroom, so I wouldn't hear. Ethan found me 10 minutes later. "I won't pressure you," he said carefully. "You don't owe me anything." I laughed bitterly. "You were a ghost my whole life. And now you're real." "I know," he said, "and I hate myself for it." That surprised me. Men like him aren't supposed to hate themselves. They're supposed to justify everything. "My entire career," he continued, "was built on proving I didn't need anyone. On revenge against a world I thought took you away from me." Revenge. The word echoed. He explained how he sued former partners into bankruptcy, crushed competitors, and deliberately destroyed companies owned by people who reminded him of loss. Power had become his shield. "I can't undo the damage," he said, "but I can stop." Then he looked me in the eyes. "And I can take responsibility now." Responsibility didn't mean much without action. 2 weeks later, action came. Ethan paid off my mother's medical debt over 180,000 without telling us. He arranged access to a new neurological trial at Columbia Presbyterian, one not publicly available. Experimental, expensive, risky. My mother hesitated. "I don't want charity." "It's not charity," he said. "It's accountability." "I lost my chance to raise you," he said. "I won't lose the chance to support you." The press eventually found out. Headlines screamed about the billionaire's secret family. Old enemies crawled out, calling it a publicity stunt. Ethan didn't respond. Instead, he did something no one expected. He settled 3 long-running lawsuits, reinstated employees he'd fired out of spite, donated stock to companies he once tried to ruin. People said he was going soft. I knew better. He was a tawning. One evening, I found him sitting with my mother, holding her trembling hands, tracing the cracked compass tattoo with his thumb. "We were broken," she said softly, "but the compass still pointed us back." "I spent decades burning bridges," he replied. "I thought revenge made me strong." "And now?" I asked. He looked at me. "Now I know revenge just kept me lost." For the first time, I didn't see Ethan Black with the billionaire. I saw a man trying to earn something money couldn't buy. And for the first time, I wondered if forgiveness, slow, cautious, imperfect, might actually be possible. The trial worked. Not a miracle, not a cure, but enough. Enough that my mother's hand steadied for hours at a time. Enough that her voice stopped slurring when she spoke too long. Enough that she could walk through the park again, without holding my arm like a lifeline. The doctors called it unexpected improvement. Ethan called it borrowed time. He used every second of it. He drove her to appointments himself, sitting in plastic chairs that cost less than his shoes. He learned her medication schedule better than I had. He cooked badly but proudly. Burned pasta, undercooked chicken, and once nearly set off the fire alarm. My mother laughed more in those months than I'd heard in years. And me? I stayed cautious. I didn't call him Dad. I didn't accept the black credit card he slid across the table one afternoon, like it was no big deal. "I don't want to buy you," he said quietly. "I just don't know how to show up without money." That honesty mattered more than the money. What finally cracked me wasn't a gift. It was a lawsuit. Ethan Blackwood had a reputation for revenge, and one of his oldest enemies, a former partner, filed a defamation suit the moment the news broke. Old Ethan would have destroyed him. Instead, Ethan settled, paid, apologized, walked away. I confronted him about it. "You let him win," I said. He shook his head. "No, I stopped letting anger run my life." Then he did something that made headlines disappear. He transferred a controlling share of his company into a trust, one that couldn't be used for retaliation lawsuits. The board panicked. Investors complained. He didn't care. "I built an empire trying to punish the past," he said. "I'm not doing that anymore." That night, I finally called him Dad. Just once, quietly, when my mother wasn't in the room. He didn't answer. He just hugged me and cried into my shoulder like a man who'd been holding his breath for 26 years. 3 months later, my mother asked him a question that froze the room. "Why did you keep the tattoo?" she asked. He looked down at his wrist. The cracked compass, faded but permanent. Because I needed proof I wasn't crazy, he said. Proof that love didn't just vanish. She rolled up her sleeve. So did I. The compass roses matched. Still broken. Still pointing. That was the night he proposed. No ring yet. No audience. Just a question. If we don't get forever, he said, voice shaking, can I at least have now? She said yes. And for the first time in my life, revenge wasn't the ending of this story. It was what we finally left behind. They didn't rush the wedding. There were no magazine covers, no society pages, no celebrity guests. Ethan wanted it quiet. My mother wanted it simple. After everything they'd lost, they weren't interested in pretending anymore. They got married in a small botanical garden in upstate New York on a cloudy Tuesday morning. Just the three of us, a judge, and a nurse standing discreetly nearby in case my mother got tired. She wore a soft blue dress, not white. Ethan wore a plain gray suit with no tie. When he took her hand, I noticed something that made my throat tighten. His hand wasn't steady. The man who'd terrified boardrooms was shaking. I should have fought harder, he said during his vows. I should have trusted love more than fear. My mother smiled through tears. You found your way back. Afterward, we had lunch at a diner down the road. Plastic menus, cheap coffee. The waitress didn't recognize Ethan Blackwood. That felt right. For a while, life almost felt normal. I went back to school full-time. Finished a degree I'd put on hold. My mother's condition stabilized enough that she could travel short distances. We visited Lake Michigan where she grew up and the small Chicago cemetery where her parents were buried. Ethan stood quietly beside her grave, whispering apologies to people who could no longer hear them. But life doesn't stop just because you've made peace. 6 months after the wedding, the trial began to fail. The tremors returned. Stronger. The doctors were honest this time. We've extended quality of life, one said gently, not cured the disease. I watched Ethan absorb that without flinching. No rage, no threats, no throwing money at the impossible, just acceptance. He moved us all into a house near the water in Connecticut. Mornings were slow, sunrises quiet. Some days were bad. Some were good enough to pretend the bad ones weren't coming. One night, after my mother fell asleep, Ethan sat with me on the porch. I used to think revenge was strength, he said, but it just kept me alone. He looked at the house behind us. I don't regret the money. I regret the years I wasted thinking anger could replace love. I thought about the restaurant, the tattoo, the shattered glass. One moment had ended a lifetime of bitterness. I don't hate you, I said. I know, he replied, but I still need to earn the right to be here. And he did every single day. Not with money, with presence, with patience, with love that showed up late but showed up fully. And somehow, that made all the difference.